Hi, this is Ted. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some history. And I'm going to bring it up to date and show you that what Israel went through, actually it's Judah. I say Israel, I slip into that all the time, but at this point, the northern group of the Israelites, whose name was Israel, had already been taken as prisoners and pretty much ended as a country. And the southern part, called Judah, continued. And Judah has its capital in Jerusalem. In its capital, they have a king, Jehoahaz. Jehoahaz, in 609 BC, is taken prisoner to Egypt because Egypt is upset that Jehoahaz stopped paying him tribute, paying them tribute. And so they have Jehoahaz put into jail, and they instead place somebody else as king in Judah. And that somebody else is still in the Davidic lineage, so he's still from the tribe of Judah, and he's still one of David's ancestors, but his name is Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim reigns for 11 years, and people hate him, don't like him at all. And when he dies, there's no loss, there's no mourning. They don't even bury him properly. His son, Jeconiah, has two other names, so it gets a little confusing. I'm going to call him Jake, just to be short and to be simple and to simplify things, because Jake is kind of important to this story. Jake reigns for 3.5 months. After 3.5 months, Babylon comes and takes him prisoner and takes him to Babylon. And poor Jake ends up in a prison for a long while. Eventually he's freed. And Jake was probably liked by the people. And his replacement was his uncle. And his uncle was not liked. At least it is, in all likelihood, he's not liked. Why? Well, Ezekiel was a prophet, and he went with Jake to Babylon. And he probably got to know Jake very well on that journey, because it's a 4-month journey traveling along the Fertile Crescent. What is the Fertile Crescent? It's along a river that goes from Israel all the way to Babylon. And you can't go straight through because that would be a lot faster, a lot shorter, but it's all desert. So they took people along the river. That's the Fertile Crescent. When Ezekiel begins to prophesy, he mentions in the 5th year of King Jake. He does not say in the 5th year of King Zedekiah. Zedekiah was the person that Babylon chose to put in the place of King Jake in Jerusalem. He was the uncle of Jake. The Bible doesn't clearly say, at least to the best of my knowledge, the Bible does not clearly say that Zedekiah was really liked or disliked. But imagine, if you will, if China came in and took our president and put their choice, their puppet, in charge. How would you feel? Would you like that puppet? Probably not. And I believe that's why they didn't like Jake's father, Jehoiakim, because he was placed by Egypt. Do you get where I'm going? Now, Jake was loved in all likelihood. In fact, all indications point to the fact that he was liked and people wanted him back. I think I've set up a little bit of some of the stuff that's going on. Jeremiah had previously predicted that King Jake and his kids would never rule in Judah. I think this probably got people very upset. Jeremiah was not a popular prophet, by the way. People accused him of being unpatriotic, and people did not like what he was preaching and what he was saying. Jeremiah said that King Jake would go into captivity, and he did. He said he would never return. History shows that he never did. But when you're dealing with the situation we're going to deal with in chapter 28 of the book of Jeremiah, the people weren't there yet. They didn't know what the future held. So, Jeremiah is wearing this yoke on his neck, a wooden yoke, and it symbolizes that we are going to be in bondage to Babylon. He goes into the temple, and another prophet comes to him. His name is Hananiah. And here is the story. Hananiah creates a showdown between him and Jeremiah. Hananiah uses the name Yahweh and Elohim. He preaches from, and he claims to be preaching from and speaking from God himself, our God. He doesn't claim to be coming from Baal. There's no indication of that, because he says, "Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts." So he starts out with the right formula. The God of Israel. I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years, now this is his problem. He gives 2 years. Had he not mentioned 2 years, his prophecy probably would be fulfilled decades later. But he says 2 full years, the things that were taken out of the temple, because there was a lot of treasure taken out of the temple, and your king, and the people taken, because there were a lot of people taken, the higher class people were taken over into Babylon. In 2 years, I will bring them all back. Why? Because I will break the yoke of Babylon. Now, in the temple, it's not just Hananiah and Jeremiah. There are a lot of people there. And not just a lot of people, but priests. And I think their heart's going with Hananiah. Why? Because he is the one who's saying good for Israel, for Judah, for Jerusalem. Jeremiah is not. He's saying things are going to get bad. Truth of the matter is both love their country. But Hananiah let his patriotism get in the way of really hearing God. I believe he thought Jeremiah was evil, siding with, and he will be accused of siding with Babylon. He probably believed that Jeremiah was spreading lies and disheartening the people. This accusation will come against Jeremiah later on in the book of Jeremiah. And Jeremiah had little to say. Jeremiah says, I hope you're right. Amen. Let it be. But you know, in the past, a lot of prophets spoke against other countries and said, there's going to be wars and there's going to be problems. But when a prophet says there's going to be peace, when that peace comes, then that prophet will be found out to have spoken from God or not. In other words, what he's saying is, all right, Hananiah, if what you say is right, if in 2 years our king is back here with all the treasures and all the people, then you will be proven to be a prophet from God. But if not, then you weren't speaking from God. Now, in this event, it really does look like Hananiah won the upper hand. I believe the people listening were on his side. Why? Because he said what they want to believe with all their hearts. Even Jeremiah wants to believe it. Later on that same day, perhaps, but later on, Jeremiah gets a word from God. And he goes to Hananiah and he says, God did not send you. You have caused the people to trust a lie. God will remove you from this place. Now, this indicates that Hananiah was loved by the people because he caused them to trust a lie. They believed that in 2 years, things were going to turn around. Babylon was going to fall, and the people would return. But they were trusting a lie. Jeremiah told them that. He said, God will remove you from this place. In that same year, Hananiah died. Babylon did not fall until decades later. And even then, King Jake died in Babylon. Ezekiel, many people who were taken died in Babylon. All right, I see a lot of connection, a lot of similarities between this time with Jeremiah and Hananiah and what we're facing today with prophets, hundreds and thousands of prophets who claimed that President Trump would have won the election. And then when he loses, they backtrack and start trying to find different ways to excuse what happened, which was very predictable, by the way. And even now we have people who still hold on to the fact, who are like Hananiah, saying, in a year's time, the Lord, thus saith the Lord, in a year's time, President Trump will be back in the throne. Now, a lot of people really like this because it's a message they want to hear. Just like a lot of people liked what Hananiah said. But Jeremiah told Hananiah, you have caused the people to trust lies. And these prophets have caused people to trust lies. This is Ted. You all have a good day.